Welcome to our third module on inspection. As inspectors with daily face-to-face contact with boaters, you are the face of Colorado Parks and Wildlife as well as the agency or employer that you represent. As such, you are expected to maintain a high level of professionalism at all times. The inspector's role is to perform inspections and decontaminations to help prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species on recreational watercraft and to educate the public. Remember, inspections, decontaminations, and education are the three roles of the inspector. Regardless of who you work for, you are an authorized agent of CPW when certified to perform inspections. As such, you are expected to always act professionally and follow state procedures. Wear your assigned uniform and keep a clean appearance. Remain polite and courteous even in difficult situations. Never remove equipment from the workspace or use it for anything other than intended. Show up to scheduled shifts on time or early and ready to work. Use of alcohol or drugs, including marijuana, will not be tolerated in the workplace. And please, do not bring any pets to work with you or leave them in your vehicle. There are many things that inspectors do not do. Here are a few of those items. Please take good care of our equipment and return it at the end of the season. Notify your supervisor if something breaks or goes missing. Uniforms are provided by your employer. It is expected that you wear them daily. You must always wear your safety vest when performing inspections and decontaminations. Now let's recall our basic propulsion systems. A trolling motor can be electric or gasoline and are used for moving quietly and slowly through the water. Outboard motors are attached to the transom of the boat and are housed entirely outside of the boat. Inboard-outboard or IO engines have the lower unit outside of the boat while the engine is housed inside the boat. Inboard engines have the entire engine located inside the boat with only a prop and a prop shaft external to the boat. And jet engines intake water under the boat, which is then forced through an impeller and out of the jet that steers and powers the watercraft. The state of Colorado has defined three categories of boats. Regulation-exempt boats do not need to be inspected unless they launch from a trailer or have a gasoline or diesel motor. Simple boats need to be inspected, as do complex boats. There are 9 boats that are exempt in regulation from inspection in Colorado. These boats are listed in Regulation 800G and include kayaks, canoes, rafts, belly boats, windsurfer boards, sailboards, float tubes, inner tubes, and paddle boards. Inspectors need to remember that not all hand-launched boats are exempt from inspection. Only the 9 listed in regulation. Exempt boats lose their exemption if they launch on a trailer or if a gasoline or diesel motor is added. Simple boats generally pose a lower risk of carrying ANS. Simple boats are defined by the state as having an open hull, no containers or compartments, and a single outboard motor. Complex boats can pose a moderate to very high risk of carrying aquatic nuisance species. The state has defined a complex boat as having a closed hull, or one or more compartments, or more than one motor or engine. If one of these 3 things is true, the boat is considered complex. Remember, the more complex the watercraft is, and the greater the ability it has to carry water, such as ballast, the greater the risk. Okay. Let's get into the fun stuff now. Inspections. There are 4 different types of inspection stations here in Colorado. First, negative prevention waters. Waters that have never had a verified detection of any ANS. Other ANS positive waters. Waters that have a verified presence of an ANS listed in the Chapter 8 regulations other than zebra or quagga mussels. ZQM containment waters. Waters that have had a verified zebra or quagga mussel detection. And off-water WIDs. These are authorized locations that are not at a lake or reservoir, such as an office or a marine dealer. All boats should be clean, drained, and dried in between launches. This means no water, no mud, no animals, and no plants. If boats are not moving any of these, we have significantly reduced, if not eliminated, the risk of carrying invasive species on recreational watercraft. Remember to educate every boater to clean, drain, and dry. Do not assume the boater knows. As an inspector, there will be times that there may be a lot of vehicle and boater traffic, inclement weather, and special machinery and equipment when you are performing decontaminations. Safety for yourself and the public is always the #1 priority. It is also of the utmost importance to educate the public about invasive species and how they can stop the spread of ANS by keeping their gear and boats clean and dry. Performing inspections and identifying which watercraft pose the highest risk is also very important to keep WIDs running efficiently and smoothly. Finally, draining water and decontamination may be required to eliminate the risk of ANS. While it may be easy to assume that most boaters know about ANS and the Watercraft Inspection and Decontamination Program, it is important to take the time to ask them and explain the process. There may be instances in which you have returning boaters that you, the inspector, knows very well. It is still important to remind every boater to clean, drain, and dry their boat and equipment after each and every use. The goal is to have the boater be able to inspect and drain their own boat when launching or leaving waters without inspection stations. It is important to have the proper equipment available to be able to do good inspections and decontaminations. Some of the tools you should have at your site include data collectors or activity logs, an LED flashlight, wire cutters, an inspection mirror, magnifiers, a digital camera, and a sample collection kit. These should be provided by your employer. The top 3 items will be graded in the quality assurance evaluation. The others you should have at the station and use as needed. Do not remove seal wire with your hands. You must use wire cutters to avoid lacerations from the wire. While performing inspections, you will be recording information such as date and time, boat and trailer registration, risk factors, and types of procedures performed. Most authorized locations record this information in an electronic data collector that allows for instant uploading of data into a CPW database. This database was developed by an inspector and piloted from 2009 to 2011. This cuts down on paper waste and saves time and money from having employees type in the data by hand. In 2012, the ANS Utility Data Collection System was deployed successfully statewide. By collecting boat inspection records electronically and not on paper logs, the ANS program has saved money being spent on data entry technicians to type the data into a database and has gained great efficiency on busy boat ramps. In 2014, the ANS program deployed ANS Mobile. This mobile data collection system is usable on Android and iOS devices and has greatly expanded the range at which we are able to employ this mobile data collection system. This system has been so successful that it is now being used in Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, Lake Tahoe, Arizona, and Nevada. We anticipate this application being used by more states and jurisdictions over the next couple of years. Some authorized locations cannot use a data collector because of connectivity issues. These sites still record the inspection information on the paper activity log. This form can also be used as a backup if the data collector at your site isn't working. In 2017, we would like to request a couple changes in the way this log is filled out. First, if the boat has been out of state in the last 30 days, please write the abbreviation for the state, not just a check mark. Second, if the watercraft has been in positive waters, please also write the name of the water body so we can get better information about where we're seeing boats come from. Now moving on to seals and receipts. Colorado uses a seal and receipt system so that a boater can show proof of prior inspection. We use a green seal that locks the boat to the trailer. This assures the inspector that the boat is not launched since the seal was last applied. This green seal, accompanied by a receipt, helps communicate across jurisdictions by documenting what level of inspection or decontamination was previously performed. It also allows authorized locations that are not located at a lake or reservoir to show proof of inspection. Be sure to attach the seal between the eye bolt and a hard welded part of the trailer so it can't be removed and put back without breaking. While the goal is inspecting 100% of outgoing watercraft, there are minimum standards set that WIDs will be expected to achieve. Prevention negative sites with pre-inspection must provide exit inspections with seals and receipts to at least 80% of exiting boats. Prevention negative sites without pre-inspection must provide exit inspections with seals and receipts to at least 90% of boats. Other ANS positive waters must provide exit inspections with seals and receipts to at least 90% of exiting boats. Boats will be sealed with a matching receipt if one of the following occurs. It leaves a containment reservoir and passes an inspection or decontamination. It leaves a prevention reservoir and passes an exit inspection or decontamination. Or it comes into an office or business and passes either an inspection or decontamination. Now moving on to receipts. Remember, we have two different types of receipts. White receipts are issued at sites that are considered negative for ANS. Blue receipts are issued at sites that are considered positive for ANS. Green seals should always be accompanied by a matching receipt. Green seals from prevention reservoirs will be accompanied by a white receipt. All of the information in boxes should be filled out so that a boater cannot tamper with that receipt. There is a notes section to fill in any important information for the next inspector. For example, if the boat had a dead battery and the motor couldn't be lowered. Boats that were sealed leaving a containment reservoir will be accompanied by a blue receipt. The boater will be asked if they are returning to that same reservoir or if they plan on launching the boat elsewhere. This is important information to determine if the boat will need to be decontaminated. Some state parks have a pre-inspection policy in place. Blue containment receipts are only valid for pre-inspection if they were decontaminated upon leaving the containment reservoir or if they are returning to the same location. Remember, for a seal to be valid, it must be accompanied by the matching receipt with the authorized location name written on it. It also cannot have been tampered with and must be attached in a way that the wire will be broken if the boat is launched and separated from the trailer. The receipt is important because it shows the date the seal was applied and what kind of inspection or decontamination was previously performed. When explaining green seals to the public, there are a few things to keep in mind. Green does not mean boaters can launch without being inspected. A green seal and receipt together is proof that the boat was inspected and has not launched since then. Boaters still need to stop at the inspection station to have the seal and receipt verified. In some cases, the inspector may need to inspect the boat again if they find water or the boat is not clean. However, keeping a clean and dry boat will help boaters get on the water faster. This is the seal removal flowchart for 2017. Let's go through this scenario by scenario. Let's start with the ideal scenario. Based on the information provided on the receipt, this scenario should be a very fast clip and go. If a boat has a green seal and a receipt, read the receipt to see if they are returning to the same location, or if they've been out of the water for more than 30 days, or if the boat was decontaminated. If any one of these is true, ask about live aquatic bait and follow the bait rules. Thank the boater and allow them to launch. Now let's assume the boater has lost their receipt. The inspector must examine the seal and verify it hasn't been tampered with. See what WID location is listed on the seal. If it is from the same location or a true negative prevention water, educate the boater to keep their receipt next time. Ask about live bait and follow the bait rules. Thank the boater and allow them to launch. If they lost the receipt and the seal is from an other ANS positive water, and you work at an other ANS positive water with the same ANS, you can allow the boater to launch after educating them not to lose their receipt and following the bait rules. If they don't have a receipt and the seal is not from a water with the same ANS as your water has, you must inspect the boat for standing water and follow all standing water rules. This will most likely result in a standing water decontamination. If the boat is truly dry and does not have ballast, an IO, or an inboard, you may allow launch without decontamination after asking about bait and thanking the boater. Okay, now let's discuss the removal process for a boat with a seal and a valid receipt. If the receipt is white from a negative location, you can quickly allow launch after asking about live bait and thanking the boater. A seal with a white receipt should be a quick clip and go. If they have a seal with a blue receipt from another ANS positive water, and your water body is positive for the same ANS, You can verify drained and allow launch after asking about bait and thanking the boater. If they have a seal with a blue receipt from another ANS positive water, and your water body is negative or not positive for the same ANS listed on the receipt, you must check for standing water and follow the standing water rules. This will most likely result in a standing water decontamination. If the boat is truly dry and does not have ballast, an IO, or an inboard, you may allow launch without decontamination after asking about bait and thanking the boater. Now, let's take one more minute to review the entire seal removal flowchart with all of the scenarios illustrated. Inspectors need to be extremely familiar with these procedures. It is very important that inspectors read seal receipts and seal codes to determine which path to follow. Inspectors will be required to know what water's positive for other ANS and should have a quick reference list available at their inspection station. You may see other colored seals from other states and from a few municipalities within the state. In 2017, Colorado will continue to accept seals with proper receipts from Wyoming and New Mexico. These should be treated the same as a Colorado green seal from an other ANS positive water. However, we do not currently accept any other seals other than those. If a boat arrives with a different colored seal, it must go through an inspection as though it had no seal. See the chart in your textbook that describes other seals in use. Now, let's take a few minutes to watch a video of the ideal entrance inspection. There are 4 types of inspections: entrance inspections, high-risk inspections, exit inspections, and off-water inspections. Entrance inspections are performed prior to a boat launching on the water and is the same procedure whether you are working at a containment or a prevention reservoir. Each inspection varies in time depending on the type and complexity of the boat. You will use the paper WID log or data collector for every inspection. Entrance inspections require you to assess the risk of that watercraft and requires you to look and feel for aquatic nuisance species. Let's go over the process step by step. This is the most important thing in this module. Step 1 is to ensure personal and public safety by asking the boater to put the car in park, set the parking brake, turn off the ignition, and step out of the vehicle to assist with the inspection process. Step 2. Greet the boater by introducing yourself and providing a brochure and explanation of the inspection process. Remember to mention clean, drain, and dry. Step 3. Perform your initial assessment and record in your activity log or data collector if the boat is launching or exiting, the boat type, boat registration, including state prefix, and trailer license plate. If there is a green seal present, record the information, verify the receipt, and follow the green seal protocol. Step 4. Now that we've recorded the initial information, you need to determine the risk factors on that boat. In other words, what is the risk that this particular boat is carrying aquatic nuisance species? Has the boat been in waters outside of the state? Has the boat been in positive waters in the state? Is the watercraft dirty, crusty, or slimy? Is the watercraft complex? Did you find any standing water during your inspection? Also, be on the lookout for ballast tanks as well as live aquatic bait. We will go over the standing water rules and bait in more detail in just a few minutes. They trigger their own set of procedures. If the ballast tanks have the Muscle Master filter, you must check the sticker to verify it was installed within 6 months and that the tamper-resistant red tags are intact. And if yes, go on with your inspection. If no, send to decontamination and follow the standing water rules. Step 7 is to perform the visual and tactile inspection of the boat. HEAD. H. Inspect the entire hull and trailer and have the boater pull the bilge plug. E. Inspect the engine or motor and transom carefully with a flashlight. Always have the lower unit lowered to ensure that it is drained. A. Inspect the anchor and all other equipment. D. Inspect the interior and drain all standing water from compartments and the bilge. When inspecting the hull and trailer, be sure to look and feel for ANS. Have the boater pull the bilge plug while you are conducting this step. Inspect through-hull fittings, trailer bunks, tire wells, and lights. Be sure to remove any plant fragments that may be present. Have the boater lower the outboard or lower unit to ensure that it is fully drained. Check the transom and gimbal areas closely with a flashlight. These are areas that mussels prefer to attach. When draining engines, inspectors must ensure the motor is moved to the run or vertical position to drain water from the engine to the best of your ability. Have the boater tilt the engine to vertical. Ensure they do not start the engine, and please ensure the engine does not contact the ground. Motor should be drained for all inspections, standard, high risk, and exit. Inspectors should always ask to see the anchor and any other equipment that could come in contact with the water. Visually inspect for water, mud, plants, or other ANS. Ensure that all equipment is clean and dry. Compartments need to be inspected and drained or decontaminated if they contain water. Always ask permission to board the vessel and follow behind the boater to prevent injury. The boater must physically open compartments for inspectors to check for water. When concluding your entrance inspection, remind the boater to replace their bilge plug and to raise the motor. Ensure that any other inspectors are finished and that everyone is clear of the boat and the transport vehicle before launch. Remind the boater to get an exit inspection and a green seal and thank them for their time. Be sure to complete the WID activity log or submit the data collector record when finished. Now, let's take a few minutes to watch a video of the ideal entrance inspection.
Watercraft inspections are a proven method to stop the spread of zebra and quagga mussels and other invaders. Because overland travel on boats and trailers is the primary vector for spreading aquatic invasive species, boat inspections and decontaminations are critical to protect waters from an irreversible infestation that could threaten recreational opportunities and cause expensive and irreparable damage to ecosystems, water-related infrastructure, and local economies. This video will show you how to perform a watercraft entrance inspection. By following these steps, infested boats can be intercepted and decontaminated prior to launching. This inspection protocol also serves as a key public education and awareness component. Because watercraft inspectors cannot be placed at every boat ramp in the state, teaching boaters how to inspect their own vessels is critical to protect our waters and to ensure the long-term success of this program. When a boat arrives at the inspection station, greet the boater by introducing yourself. Ask the driver to set their parking brake, put the vehicle in park, and turn off the ignition. The driver should step out of the vehicle and assist with the inspection. Provide a brief explanation of the inspection process and the reason for performing the inspection. Inform the boater that you are looking for zebra or quagga mussels or other invasive plants or animals. Be sure to give them a brochure with additional information. Remember to tell the boater that you are also making sure that their watercraft is clean, drained, and dry before launching. Record information about the watercraft in either the mobile application or the paper activity log. Be sure to enter the watercraft's registration number and trailer license plate. If the boat is new and does not have a registration number, record the whole number or HIN. Note if the boat is coming in or going out and the type of craft. If the boat has a seal, check to make sure the receipt matches and follow the procedures for applying or removing seals. If the boat does not have a valid seal and receipt, You must begin the inspection by interviewing the boater to determine if the vessel poses a high risk of introducing invasive species. There are 2 questions that you must ask to determine risk. First, ask if the watercraft has been launched out of state in the last 30 days.
Sir, is this boat launched out of state in the last 30 days? No, it is not.
Next, ask where the boat has launched in the last 30 days.
Where has this boat launched in the last 30 days?
Listen carefully and note if any of the waters mentioned are suspect or are listed as positive for mussels or other invasive species. Do not combine these questions or you will miss a critical risk factor, since many states have lakes and reservoirs with the same name. Because species like zebra and quagga mussels can survive out of water for up to 30 days, establishing when and where a vessel has launched is critical to determine risk. Record if the watercraft is complex and if it is dirty, crusty, or slimy. These factors also increase risk. Next, it's important to physically inspect the watercraft for standing water. Be sure to ask the boater if they are carrying live aquatic bait. If so, follow the live bait protocols. Also check to see if the watercraft has ballast tanks. Because ballast tanks cannot be drained, seen, or physically inspected, you must follow the standing water protocols. Next, perform the visual and physical inspection of the boat. The acronym HEAD can help you remember the systematic process for inspecting watercraft. H is for hull and trailer. E is for engine. A is for anchor. And D is for drain. Begin by inspecting the hull and trailer on the port side of the bow and move toward the stern. Look and feel for any sandpaper-like bumps or any other signs of invasives. If at any point zebra or quagga mussels or other invasive species are suspected, a high-risk inspection and a full decontamination are required. Repeat this process on the starboard side of the hull and trailer from stern to bow. Use a flashlight for dark spaces and a mirror for areas that are difficult to see. Once the hull and trailer have been inspected, physically and visually inspect the bilge plug and bilge area using a flashlight. If applicable, have the boater activate the bilge pump. Complete the exterior inspection by checking the transom, including any instruments that are attached. Ask the boater to lower the engine and verify that it has been drained. Inspect the engine using a flashlight to see dark hidden places where mussels like to attach. Pay particular attention to the intakes, motor mount, and gimbal. Next, ask for permission to board the watercraft. Have the boater enter first and safely follow them inside. Ask the boater to take out the anchor and anchor rope or chain. Be sure to examine these carefully since they come in contact with the bottom of the lake where invasive mussels are typically found. Next, inspect interior compartments to verify that they are dry. Begin at the bow and work toward the stern. Ask the boater to open compartments that hold water, including live wells or bait wells, and any compartments that hold equipment. Be sure to examine and feel life jackets, buoys, paddles, ropes, nets, and drift socks, and ensure that all items are clean and dry. If standing water is found in any compartment and the boater claims to have launched only in negative waters, remove standing water from the watercraft using a pump, sponge, or towel. If the watercraft cannot be drained or was previously launched in positive waters, follow standing water protocols and perform a decontamination. Once the inspection is finished, remind the boater to reinsert the bilge plug and raise the engine. Encourage the boater to get an exit inspection and explain how having a seal and receipt will allow them to launch more quickly when they return. Thank the boater for their cooperation and allow them to launch. Finalize the inspection by submitting the record in the mobile application or on the paper activity log.
Always be on the lookout for high-risk factors. If you see something suspicious, slow down and spend more time on the inspection. High-risk inspections are performed when our watercraft are identified as having a high biological risk of carrying ANS during an entrance or exit inspection. During entrance inspections, if the boat receives 2 or more check marks under the Determining Risk Factors section, the boat needs to get a high-risk inspection. Remember our 5 risk factors. Boats that have launched out of state within 30 days. Boats that have launched in positive or suspect waters within 30 days. Dirty, crusty, or slimy boats. Complex boats. And standing water on the boat. High-risk inspections use the same method to inspect, using the HEAD acronym. However, it is a longer and more thorough inspection. Because the boat is a high risk, you are looking very closely to find signs of ANS. Remember, out-of-state boats, boats coming from positive waters, and boats carrying standing water pose the greatest risk. During a high-risk inspection, feel the entire hull, trailer, and transom below the waterline, focusing on angles and fasteners, and you may need to do more than one pass. When looking at the engine and gimbal area, you must use a flashlight and feel with your hands, as muscles like to attach in these areas and can be difficult to see. When inspecting the interior of the boat, be sure to look in all interior compartments that could come in contact with water, including equipment. Make sure that all water is drained out of the boat. If it cannot be fully drained, perform a standing water decontamination. We will cover decontamination in the next module. So where are mussels most likely to be on a boat? Mussels prefer to settle on rough areas or right-angled locations. They are light sensitive and prefer dark colors. They will be located below the waterline or in compartments that hold water, as they cannot survive long-term out of the water. Your focus should be on areas like these when conducting your inspections. Exit inspections at prevention reservoirs and other ANS positive reservoirs are required to get a green seal and receipt. Inspect as many boats as possible on exit. We want all boats to have green seals and receipts in between every single launch. Exit inspections are performed when the boat is leaving the reservoir. It continues to use the HEAD acronym. This is the minimum required to receive a green seal and receipt when leaving a prevention or other ANS water, and provides an opportunity to educate the boater, ensure vessel hull and anchor are clean, ensure the vessel is drained, and encourage additional cleaning and drying. Remind the boater to leave the bilge plug out during transport to ensure more drainage from the bilge and to dry equipment at home. Remember, this is now in regulation. If at any point ANS is found, do a high-risk inspection and decontaminate. Also be sure to verify the accuracy of your data entry and thank the boater for their time and cooperation. It is mandatory that all boats leaving in other ANS containment water receive an inspection per regulation. Other ANS positive waters shall provide clean, drain, and dry exit inspections to at least 90% of watercraft and will issue green seals along with blue receipts. High-risk inspections will not be required at the source water unless an ANS is found or suspected. Decontaminations will not be required at the source water unless an ANS is found or suspected, and blue receipts will only be valid for pre-inspection at the same site in which they were issued. Boats carrying standing water pose a huge biological risk of transporting aquatic nuisance species. Mussel larvae, juveniles, pathogens, and plant seeds or fragments can be carried in this water. This is why all boats should be drained out in between launches or decontaminated. The only exception to this rule is if a boat with the ballast tank, IO, or inboard engine has been drained to the best of your ability and issued a green seal and receipt and is launching at another prevention water. In this course, we talk about two different types of water. Verifiable water is water that you can visually see and inspect for, such as live wells. Unverifiable water is water that you cannot see, feel, or visually inspect for. This is most common with ballast tanks, IO, and inboard engines. Here are our standing water protocols. Rule number 1. Boats from containment locations. If the watercraft has been in suspect, positive, or infested waters within the last 30 days and was not decontaminated upon exit and has any standing water, it is mandatory to send the watercraft to decontamination. Rule number 2. Boats with verifiable water. Watercraft that are from unknown sources or from prevention waters must be clean, drained, and dry. Sponge, pump, or towel out standing water or decontaminate prior to allowing launch. Rule number 3. Boats with unverifiable water. Remember, we find unverifiable water in ballast tanks, inboard engines, and IO engines. Boats with no green seal and receipt will get a standing water decontamination. Boats with the green seal and receipt that are returning to the same location do not need decontamination. Boats with a green seal and a receipt moving between Colorado prevention locations must be fully pumped out and no longer require decontamination. Educate all ballast boaters to get green seals and receipts when exiting reservoirs. This is the protocol for inspecting a PWC or personal watercraft. First, have the operator remove the cover in front of the handlebars and the seat over the motor during inspections. Have the operator remove 1 or 2 bilge plugs on either side of the steering nozzle to ensure drainage. Then check the intake grate on the bottom of the hull for mussels, plants, mud, etc. Have the owner start the PWC. Stand clear and ask the owner to rev the engine 2 to 3 times. This ensures the cooling and exhaust systems are free of standing water. Now, let's talk about live aquatic bait. State ANS Regulation Number 803M. If a vessel or other floating device contains bait in water, then the owner or operator will be required to produce a receipt for the bait from a Colorado bait dealer with a date clearly printed on the receipt and the date is no more than 7 days previous. Use or possession of live fish as bait is prohibited east of the Continental Divide above 7,000 feet. Use or possession of live fish as bait is prohibited west of the Continental Divide except at Navajo Reservoir. Live bait fish is not allowed to be transported unless it is purchased from an authorized Colorado dealer and has a receipt. Any bait fish being caught in the wild must be used in the same body of water in which it was caught and is not allowed to be transported to different water or stored for later use. This does not apply to the Arkansas River below Pueblo and the 6 counties included therein, including John Martin State Park. Live transport of crayfish is prohibited. All crayfish caught west of the Continental Divide or from Sanchez Reservoir State Wildlife Area must be immediately killed by removing the head from the thorax and taken into possession or immediately returned to the water from which they were taken. Bait rules in Colorado differ depending on where you are in the state. You need to know the rules for live aquatic bait at your inspection station. If you have questions, please consult with your supervisor. Before and after every launch, you must ask the boater if they have live aquatic bait on board. This is because bait water can harbor mussel veligers or diseases like whirling disease or viral hemorrhagic septicemia, two deadly fish diseases. Also, the bait itself could be an invasive species, such as a rusty crayfish. If a boater has live aquatic bait, you must ask for a valid Colorado receipt. If they have a valid receipt dated within 7 days, allow the boater to launch with the bait as is. If the boater produces a valid receipt that is more than 7 days, then you must perform a bait treatment, which will be discussed in the next module. If they do not have a receipt for the bait in question, you must do a bait treatment of the water and the boater must dispose of the bait in a garbage away from the water body. Out-of-state bait is never allowed. If the boater has bait from out of state, you must decontaminate the container and the boater must dispose of the bait in the garbage away from the water body. Now, let's talk about reporting. If you find or think you have found a mussel boat, you must call your immediate supervisor to notify them. They will then notify the State Invasive Species Coordinator. Specimens should be collected and sent to the CPW ANS Program Office Lab within 24 hours of collecting the specimen. We will go into more detail on reporting when we get to decontamination. If you do find zebra or quagga mussels or other ANS on a boat, do not allow the boater to leave with mussels or other ANS attached to the vessel. Report, document, collect, and decontaminate, and don't be afraid to call law enforcement if you need help. The last topic in this module is state parks pre-inspection. If the ANS inspection station is open, boats must get inspected. If the inspection station is not open, boats must show proof of prior inspection. Well-lighted drop boxes and log sheets are present at the pre-inspection station. Boaters cut off and place their seal and receipt in the drop box and fill out the log. Park rangers and ANS inspectors compare boats on the lake and trailers in the parking lot with the contents of the drop box and logs. Discrepancies are investigated. When this program is first implemented, the park should put out a press release and write warnings for the first month or two. Violators can be intercepted on the water or as they come off the water and can be cited. We must be vigilant with pre-inspection. It is an important part of our ANS program. This concludes the third module on watercraft inspection. Please take the Module 3 exam and proceed to Module 4 on decontamination.